What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about the three big bat options for our New York Mets, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. And don't forget, guys, right after this premiere video, check out the live stream, Mets Hot Stove Live at 6 p.m. tonight. We're going to go over the big bat options, the bullpen options, and what else the Mets need to do to make this team a contender for the World Series in 2023. All right, guys. So, the three big bat options. We've been talking about big bats to help out Lindor, help out Pete Alonso, giving protection for this lineup, not just including Lindor and Alonso. Since the trade deadline last season in 2022, and we even talked about the beginning of 2022 that the Mets still needed a big bat option along with bullpen options. So the three big bat options that the Mets could be looking for this offseason is exactly what this team needs, probably even more than what we still need for the bullpen and what we already did with the rotation. So what are we going to be looking at when it comes to big bat options? We know Josh Bell is off the table. We almost got Carlos Correa. That would have been a big bat option for our New York Mets. But what could the Mets use to go get a guy that could be the protection that we need behind Pete Alonso? Who are those guys? What is it going to take to get those guys in regards to contract? And we are going to look at each one of their stats to see which is the best fit for the New York Mets. We are going to first start off with Adam Duvall. Adam Duvall is a good player, but there's something about him that I do not trust. Yes, he played well with Atlanta. Yes, he played well with the Marlins. But do we need a guy that bats barely above the Mendoza line? Or do we need a guy that we don't care about average, but we just need that power bat behind Pete Alonso? Well, we're going to look at his stats just like this. Adam Duvall, yes, is a good player. If you look directly at 2021 in the light blue, he had 113 RBIs with the Miami Marlins and the Atlanta Braves in 2021. Of course, he got traded to the Atlanta Braves midseason, and he had 16 home runs with 45 RBIs. But look at the average, guys. It's just not exactly what you want when it comes to the average. But are you looking for average, or are you looking at just pure power? You can look at his OPS, and it was just insane that year at 772, which is pretty damn good. But with the Atlanta Braves, he had an 800 OPS, and that's something you can look at as well. Do you just want the pure power of the hitter, or do you need somebody that actually can put the bat on the ball because he has a ton of strikeouts as well? He even had 174 strikeouts, which is the most in his career, and that's something that you have to worry about when you're looking at a guy that you need to protect Pete Alonso in the fifth spot in that lineup. And is Adam Duvall that guy? I'm not necessarily sure, because this was his career year in 2021. And it is very concerning with Adam Duvall. Can you put him in your fifth spot and just leave him there as your DH? Can he play the outfield? Yes, he can play mostly left field, so he got some versatility there. But the average scares me. I know you're going to talk about the power. I know you're going to talk about the consistent power. But if you look at his career, guys, I mean, in 2016 and 2017, he had 33 and 31 home runs with the Cincinnati Reds. But other than that, 15 home runs, 10 home runs, 6. It's just not a lot of home runs that we're looking for. And yes, in 2022, look what he had. Only 12 home runs in 86 games. That's concerning to me, but I need a guy that can at least bat 250 with the home runs that we saw in 2021. Then we could be talking about a guy that I would definitely put in the fifth spot in the lineup behind Pete Alonso. I do not think Adam Duvall is that guy, but he is definitely an option for the New York Mets. That is the first bat that we are looking at with the options for the Mets. He can play left field, and he can definitely be a DH. Is that versatile enough where the Mets would need a guy like that? Or are they looking elsewhere? And the next guy that we're going to be looking at is Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini is a guy that had a really good young career with the Baltimore Orioles. You can look at the blue over here. He had 24 home runs and 35 home runs from 2017 to 2019. Did not play because of the cancer he had in 2020. Came back in 2021 and had 21 home runs with the Baltimore Orioles. And that is decent home run stats, not big-time home run stats, since 35 home runs was the most of his career. But what I do like about him is his average. In 2022, he had a 268 average with the Baltimore Orioles, in total of 239, because he really struggled with the Houston Astros at a 176 average and only 8 home runs in 51 games with the Houston Astros. But I think he was more shocked that he was going to get traded from the Baltimore Orioles, especially when they started to play better in the second half, or at least right before the trade deadline when they started to play a lot better. Trey Mancini, I think the change of scenery actually hurt him, and I didn't think he wanted to leave the Baltimore Orioles, even though he was going to a championship team in the Houston Astros. I do not think that Trey Mancini and that change of scenery helped him, because I think it really messed him up getting traded, and I don't think he is the player that he showed in Houston. And I do think the best part about Trey Mancini, yes, you can look at the average. If you look at the averages, 242, 291, 293, 255, 268. So he's averaging around the 260 hitter in his career. That's something I do like, because he can hit lefties and he can hit righties, and you can put him in the lineup almost every day. And the other thing that's important with Trey Mancini is the versatility that he has. He can DH. He can play first base. You can put him at third base in an emergency situation, and he can definitely play the corner outfields, left field, and right field, which is very important for the Mets, because you can kill a lot of birds with just one stone when it comes to Trey Mancini, because you don't have to stick him in one spot, in the DH spot, because that's the only thing he can do. And that's something that JD Martinez, a lot of people really wanted the Mets to get him, but he was a doormat. He was basically a DH or bust. Trey Mancini can play multiple positions. You'll have the backup first baseman for Pete Alonso. You'll have a platoon situation in left field if you really need it with Trey Mancini. And of course, he can be the DH if Alvarez is not the bat that we think he is early on in the 2023 season, and it gives the Mets a veteran option at the DH spot and be very versatile. And that's what Trey Mancini can bring to the table. He can bring a decent average. He can provide decent amount of power. As you can see, he hit 18 home runs last year with the Orioles and the Astros, but his average drastically went down with the Houston Astros. But that's something that I'm not too concerned about, because of the fact that I think Trey Mancini is still in the prime of his career, and I do think he can be a 20 to 22 home run guy going forward. I just think the change of scenery hurt him with the Houston Astros, because I think he was shocked that he was traded from the Orioles, since when they were playing better at that moment before they traded him. And I think it was more of a shock, and he just never recovered as a Houston Astro. And I think getting into a free agency period, I think that he is going to be a lot more comfortable, that he can choose his team. And even if it is the New York Mets, I do think he's going to have a really good season. And he could be possibly looking for a 2-year deal, maybe with an opt-out. He is only 30 years old, so that's something that can work out as well with the New York Mets. But the versatility, the decent average, and a good enough pop that we can see Trey Mancini as one of the favorites that the Mets can look at in the DH spot, and versatility he has in the outfield, a backup first baseman, and is a guy that I think will really fit well in the clubhouse. And that's something that we always look at, is chemistry with the New York Mets. And the last guy that is on the list as a big bat option for the New York Mets is none other than Brandon Drury. Brandon Drury is obviously the big power bat that we can look at because he does hit a lot of home runs. And yes, his average is very good. 263 over the two teams he played for with Cincinnati and the San Diego Padres, and didn't play as well as he did with Cincinnati when he was traded to the Padres. But look at the amount of home runs he hit. He had 28 home runs with both teams in 2022 with 87 RBIs, and he played 138 games. And that's something that you can actually look at with the New York Mets. But I do worry a little bit about the average, but not too much about the average. But what I do concern myself with Brandon Drury is that if you look at his career, 16 home runs, 13 home runs, and 15 home runs, it's just not the home runs that you expect for a guy who hit 28 home runs in 2022. That is very concerning. Now, is he forming into his prime years where he finally figured it out power-wise? And now he's going to be consistently hitting over 20 home runs? Is that the guy that we could expect in a Mets uniform in Brandon Drury that we've seen with the Cincinnati Reds and the San Diego Padres and a little bit with the Mets? He was pretty decent with the short term that he had with the New York Mets, hit a couple of home runs. But is he the guy that he is now that he finally figured it out with launch angle or whatever analytics showed him is something that we can actually look at with Brandon Drury? I mean, his OPS was 813 last year, which is excellent. Yes, his average in 2022 was 263, which is where I like it. Is he a guy that can only hit left-handers? I don't think so. I think he can hit right-handers and left-handers, and you can put him in the lineup almost every day as the DH. And yes, he can play a little bit of left field. And you know what? If you need to put him in a bind as a backup first baseman, that's something that you can also do as well. So what are we going to look at when it comes to Brandon Drury? Is it the power that we've seen in 2022, or is he going to revert back to the guy that hits about 15, 16 home runs in the year, and that's the guy we're going to get as Brandon Drury? I don't know. But you can expect the Mets to probably get one of these three guys. Is it going to be Adam Duvall, Trey Mancini, or Brandon Drury? If I'm the New York Mets, I'm going with Trey Mancini. And the reason why I'm going with Trey Mancini is the fact that the New York Mets need versatility, not just a big bat that you can put at the DH spot and you can't play nowhere else. That's why J.D. Martinez was a terrible fit for the New York Mets. But what could be the best option for the Mets? Trey Mancini is that guy. I think Brandon Drury is second, and I think Adam Duvall is third. Brandon Drury worries me a little bit because of the fact he never hit that many home runs in his career. And you could say maybe he got more of an opportunity with Cincinnati and playing every day. And then when he went to the Padres, got mostly playing time. He did hit a decent amount of home runs for the Padres, but he also struggled as well with the Padres. So what type of guy are you going to get with Brandon Drury? I don't know if he's going to revert back to the 15 home run guy or he's going to remain that 20-plus home run guy that we seen last year. But that's why I like Trey Mancini, because consistently in his career, he hit about 18 to 25 home runs within his career, and that's something that I like. And he's around the 260 hitter, which I also like. And on top of that, he can play left field, third base, first base, and of course, DH. So Trey Mancini is my guy for the New York Mets. The versatility and the decent amount of power with the average, he can hit lefties and righties. That's the most important thing that the Mets need. Not just a power bat, but a consistent hitter who is a run producer. And Trey Mancini is a good run producer. And the veteran that we've seen in Trey Mancini, I think, can also be a really nice part of this clubhouse as well. So with that said, what do you guys think is the best option for the Mets? I know some people talked about Michael Conforto. I don't see him necessarily going to the Mets, even though I think the Mets are interested in him. But I think Michael Conforto wants a team that he can possibly start with and probably get more games in, which can bolster his stats where he can get a long-term deal. So I don't think Michael Conforto is a bad option, but I don't think he's necessarily going to choose the Mets if he has other options available where he can start. And with that said, do you think Adam Duvall, Trey Mancini, and Brandon Drury is all the best options that we have on the free agent market? Of course, the trade market is another option, but when it comes to the free agent market, which player do you want on the New York Mets? Duvall, Mancini, or Drury? Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. And once again, guys, don't forget, 6 p.m. tonight, right after this premiere video, we're going right into Mets Hot Stove Live. We're going to talk about all of this, big bats, options, the bullpen, and, of course, Senga choosing his number and having his press conference earlier today. We're going to talk about all that stuff and all the rumors that are going around with the New York Mets. Once again, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching, and as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.